Is my wife cheating, or am I going insane? A few months ago, I installed a security camera outside our front door primarily for safety, prompted by a shooting in our neighborhood. It wasn't installed out of suspicion towards my wife. About a week ago, my wife came home from work and casually mentioned taking public transit, which is a common mode of transport for her, along with occasional Uber rides if she works very late. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Next day, while reviewing the camera footage, I was looking to see if a package was dropped off. I saw the video of her arrival from the previous night. The camera captures our front door and part of the street. It showed her walking up to the door, pausing to look across the street, smiling and waving as a car pulled away, and then entering the house. It strongly suggested she had been dropped off. I casually asked her if she had taken an Uber home the night before. She initially insisted she had taken transit. When I mentioned the camera footage, she shifted, suggesting maybe it was an Uber and she had forgotten. Sensing something was off, I jokingly asked if she typically waved goodbye to Uber drivers from our doorstep as they waited for her to get inside. This led to further hesitation before she finally admitted it was a coworker. The coworker is a man she has previously mentioned in passing when talking about work or a project she is involved in, who had dropped her off after they both worked late. Naturally, I felt really off. Her story went from transit to maybe Uber I forgot to actually a coworker. I asked if that was the first time he drops her off. She said yes. I pointed out how unusual it seemed to forget being dropped off for the very first time by a coworker, especially when it wasn't her usual routine. This is when she became defensive, accusing me of calling her a liar and claiming it was just an honest mistake due to being tired. While I tried to accept this, I couldn't shake the feeling that her reaction and multiple explanations were illogical. Unable to let it go, I reviewed the camera footage from the week prior. What I discovered? She had been dropped off by the same car multiple times that week alone. Expanding my search to the past month's recordings as they reset monthly, I found this scenario repeated 2 to 3 times a week. I also discovered instances where the same car picked her up in the morning, specifically on days when I had left for work early. I confronted her again, stating that the footage showed frequent occurrences of her being dropped off by the same car. She looked like a deer in headlights when I said that. She downplayed it again, saying it was just her coworker and I was making a big deal out of nothing. I explained that the hiding and lying about it were what was concerning, not necessarily the act of being dropped off. Why the secrecy if it was innocent? She became defensive again, attempting to turn it back on me by suggesting my checking the footage was obsessive and paranoid. After an hour-long argument, she finally agreed that, yeah, it was weird, I guess, that she hadn't mentioned it. I asked her directly if there was anything romantic or inappropriate going on with this coworker. She denied it, calling me crazy. Denied it, calling me. We have an open phone policy, though I've never felt the need to use it until this point. I asked to see her phone, and she handed it over. I looked through messages and found nothing that seemed suspicious or indicative of an affair with this coworker. Despite this, I still have trouble believing her. Her initial lies, the shiftiness, the attempt to blame me for being suspicious, and the eventual half-admission have eroded my trust. I also noticed that since the day I found out about the coworker dropping her off, the coworker has completely stopped dropping her off or picking her up, based on the camera footage. To me, this looks like she warned him or tipped him off on my suspicions, maybe even meeting further away from the house where the camera can't see. I can't let this go, but I'm also confused because, outside of this specific issue and her weird behavior when confronted, I haven't noticed the typical signs associated with infidelity. She isn't secretive with her phone, she hasn't become distant, and her general behavior hasn't changed in ways that would make me question her fidelity. We're both incredibly busy with demanding jobs and a 3-year-old and 1-year-old who keep us on our toes, which naturally limits our time together as a couple. But there hasn't been a shift in our dynamic that raised red flags before this. I feel like I'm going insane. And I am really struggling to find a logical explanation for this behavior that does not lead to the conclusion that she is cheating on me. I can't discuss this with friends without feeling like I am making her look bad. I'm turning to anonymous help, hoping for some perspective on whether my reaction is warranted, or if I am letting paranoia take over.